Well, hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Current today. So glad you've made it. So glad you made Current a part of your week this week. My name's Ben. If any of you out there I haven't had a chance to meet before, and I love that you're here, especially if you're new with us. If you are new with us, you should probably know this right up front. We love having people around here because people are our mission. We want to encourage, equip, and lead people, just like all of you that are out there today, to follow Jesus. Because we really believe that following Jesus will make your life better and that it will make you better at navigating life as well. And if you're here for the very first time, we hope it's the first of many times. If you're here for maybe the second or the third time and we haven't yet had a chance to connect with you in this way, I'd love to invite you to learn a little bit more about us and just let us know that you're here. You can go to new.mycurrent.church or scan the QR code that's there on screen. If you pull out your phone, go to the camera app, scan that QR code with your camera app, a link will pop up. And when you go to that link, click on the button that says, I'm new. Again, we'd love to just meet you. We'd love to know that you're here. If we haven't had a chance to ever meet you in this way, that would be awesome. I'd love to invite you to do that today. Today is a special day because we're kicking off a brand new series called What Happy Couples Know, which I'm very excited about. And so I thought it was only fitting for us to start our day together by finding out what some happy couples know about one another. So we are going to play a little game that I like to call the Not So Newlywed Game. Will you welcome our couples out here on stage? Come on out here, everybody. Yes, keep it going, Yes. It doesn't matter. Go ahead and have a seat. Yes. I tried to get one of those like really long, goofy microphone things. Yeah, too expensive. Waste of money for a few minutes, right? Okay, so everybody, this is the Etherton family, or part of them anyway. We have Bobby and Heidi. How long have you guys been married?
A long time.
Yeah.
Okay, long time. It sounds good.
2001.
2001, okay. You're supposed to know that. He's the one that's not supposed to know that. Okay. And on over here, we have Layla and Michael. And you guys are what? Engaged. Thank you very much. Yes, engaged. Okay. It wasn't a trick question. Not yet. We haven't gotten to the trick questions yet. They are engaged. And so Layla is the daughter of Bobby and Heidi. We're going to see which one of these couples know each other better. Are you guys ready for this? Okay, all right, here we go. So we asked them beforehand a series of questions. They do not know what the other person answered, and we're going to see how well they know each other. So for starters, right over here with Bobby, we're going to ask you the first question. We asked Heidi, where was your first kiss?
Where? It was on the lips.
Wait, hold on. There we go.
On the lips.
Yes, okay, well, is that your answer? Because if that's not what
It was in her parents' driveway.
Her parents' driveway. Let's see what Heidi answered.
At his car in my parents' driveway.
Oh my, look at that. Very nicely done. That's a point. We got 1 point here. Okay, moving on. Michael. Okay. We asked Layla, who's the better kisser? Okay. Are you ready for this? Do you have your answer?
It's me.
Oh, okay. Let's see what Layla said.
It is him.
Okay. Look at that. A point there as well. Very nicely done. Okay, moving on. We got 1-1. So far, so good. Heidi, we asked Bobby, who said, I love you first?
He did, and he never lets it down.
Oh, okay.
I did.
Look at that.
I had to repeat it.
I should have made these more difficult. My goodness. Okay, 2-1. Carrying on. Layla, we asked Michael, which one of you is the funniest?
Him?
Let's see what he said.
It's me.
2-2. All right. Okay, here we go. Bobby, next we asked Heidi, what would you say is Heidi's best feature? What would you say is Heidi's best feature? You're married. It's cool.
She has a nice butt.
Okay. Let's see if she thought that you would say that in church.
My eyes.
I didn't. I guess I didn't warn her of that beforehand. Okay, still 2-2. Still 2-2. Here we go. Michael, where did you guys go on your first date? First date. Do you know where you went? It wasn't that long ago, she says. This is an hour-long service, so
An hour long. So I got time?
I suppose, yeah.
All right.
Just guess where.
Cheddar's.
Cheddar's, he thinks it was Cheddar's, and she said
Went mini golfing.
mini golfing. Still 2-2. Okay, let's see. We got one more for each of you. Are you ready? Heidi, what would you say is Bobby's worst habit? What would you say is Bobby's worst habit? He wants you to get it. I can tell. It's in his eyes. He wants you to get it so bad.
Maybe biting his nails.
And he said,
Not cleaning up after myself.
Still 2-2. Man, this started off so well, and now you guys don't know each other at all. Okay. Layla, who did Michael say? This is a tough one. Who did Michael say would play you in a movie? Who would play you in a movie?
I don't know who would play me in a movie.
Who would he say would play you in a movie? We need some, like, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire mood music or something. Let's see what she got.
Anything. Sure, Taylor Swift. Let's go with that.
She says Taylor Swift would play you in a movie. No, he's shaking his head.
Jennifer Aniston.
Jennifer Aniston. That's a great answer. Good answer. Okay. All right, last one, Bobby, you ready? Who did Heidi say is the better driver?
She better have said me.
She better have said you.
Said her.
No, I said me because it was me.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, judges. No. I'm going to say no. And we're still 2-2? Is that right? Yeah. Okay. This is your chance to win. Last question of the day. Are you ready? Michael, what did Layla say is your favorite TV show?
Game of Thrones.
Yes.
Game of Thrones. Look at that. And with that, look at that. You guys just won the game. Clearly, you know each other better than your parents know one another, Layla. So can we just give them one more round of applause for the not so newlywed game? Yes. Well done. Well done. Off they go. I love it. So the winners, of course, Michael and Layla. Big props to them. Bobby, Heidi, I'm offering marital counseling at a rate of $150 an hour. That's it. By the way, before service, Josh said he's offering counseling at $75 an hour. So take your pick. You know, I know what I'd pick. Me. Okay, so hey, we got a great service in store for you. I'm going to invite the band out here because we're about ready to roll here. We're going to sing a couple songs here in just a second. Like I said, we're going to kick off our series, What Happy Couples Know. And here's the thing. I want to invest in your dating relationships, your engagements, your married life. I want to invest in that. We are for you here at Current. So that's what we're going to invest in here in just a minute. And we're going to do that here in like I said, in just a few minutes. But before we do that, we're going to sing a couple of songs. And so what I would like to do is I'd like to invite you to stand and just take a couple of seconds here, turn to somebody next to you and tell them in your significant other relationship, if you have one, who is the better driver, and then fight that out. So on your mark, get set, go.
never get tired. I'll never get tired, never get tired. You sing it. I'll never get tired, never get tired. 'Cause you are worthy and you will always be enough. And I will never get tired of singing of your love. 'Cause you are worthy and you will always be enough. And I will never get tired of singing of, never get tired of singing your love. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Never get tired, never get tired of singing your love. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Never get tired, never get tired of singing your love. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Never get tired, never get tired of singing your love. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Never get tired, never get tired of singing your love. Why did I waste so much time worrying? You've had a plan all along. I'm listening. You made a way out of deserts and rivers just yesterday. So today, if I hear you speak, I don't need an explanation. If you tell me move, I don't need the destination. If what's promised I never see, I'm still walking with you. You're still walking with me. Yeah. You will redeem all the time I spent wandering. You've been the fire and the cloud I'm following. You made a way out of bondage and darkness just yesterday. So today, if I hear you speak, I don't need an explanation. If you tell me move, I don't need the destination. If it's promised, I will believe. I'm still walking with you. You're still walking with me. If I know one thing, our God is a deliverer. If I know one thing, our God is gonna see us through. If I know one thing, our God is a deliverer. If I know one thing, our God is gonna see us through. If I know one thing, God is a deliverer. If I know one thing, our God is gonna see us through. If I know one thing, our God is a deliverer. If I know one thing, our God is gonna see us. He'll see us through. You're never alone in the battle. He'll see us through. Never alone in the desert. He'll see us through. Never alone in the fire. He'll see us through. Yes, he will. He'll see us through. He'll see us through. Never alone in the Never alone in depression, He'll see us through. Never alone in addiction, He'll see us through. Yes, He will. He'll see us through. Yes, He will. He'll see us through. All our anxiety, I know He'll see us through. Our darkest thought, I know Jesus, He'll see us through. In every circumstance, I know He'll see us through. He'll see us through. If I know one thing, our God is a deliverer. If I know one thing, our God is gonna see us through. If I know one thing, our God is a deliverer. If I know one thing, our God is gonna see us. He'll see us through. You made a way out of deserts and rivers. You made a way out of bondage and darkness. You made a way out of deserts and rivers. You made a way out of bondage and darkness. You're making a way out of deserts and rivers. You're making a way out of bondage and darkness. You're making a way out of deserts and rivers. You're making a way. You're making a way. If I know one thing, our God is a deliverer. If I know one thing, our God is gonna see us through. If I know one thing, our God is a deliverer. If I know one thing, our God is gonna see us. He'll see us through.
You guys can go ahead and take a seat. So good to sing that together. Before I say anything else, I want to just take a moment and will you just, we're here to worship God and that's what's most important, but I also want to just take a moment. Will you just appreciate Melody for leading us like solo today in worship? Yeah, I'm proud of her. She's mine, so I get to claim her and be extra proud of her. And you should know this too. Again, I wasn't planning on sharing this with you today, but she has not been feeling well for about 3 days. And yesterday she didn't even have much of a voice. And so we weren't even sure she was going to do that. And here she is leading you guys. So very impressive stuff. Hey, listen, I don't know where you guys are at. I know we got a lot of different spiritual journeys going on here with all of your different lives. I know every single one of you are facing different things. And maybe you heard us singing those words just now and you're like, man, I hear them say, if I know one thing, I hear them singing, if I know one thing, like my God is going to see me through. And maybe you're going, man, I don't know if I can sing that. I don't know if I can sing that with confidence and say, I know that God is going to see me through. I have questions. I have doubts. I have moments where I wonder. And I'm just going to be real with you for just a moment. I've had moments in the last 2 months, just personally, where I've had a lot of questions and I've had a lot of doubts. And I've had, I've wondered, like, God, are you going to see me through what it is that I'm walking through right now? And God, are you really actually there? Can I say with confidence that I know this thing? And so it's normal, it's natural, it's part of our faith journey, it's part of all of our journeys through life. That's just a normal thing. And I want to read to you something that somebody in our church texted me a couple of weeks ago. And this really was special to me to hear them say this. And so I want to read it to you. This is what they said. They said, I didn't really know God. I didn't really know God or feel his presence until a year ago. And now I feel him more every day. I feel like I know who he is now, and I've truly accepted him as my Lord and my Savior. I believe I have a story to share of my path to finding God that could help some young person that's on the path I was on. From drugs and alcohol to losing my dad and my daughter, I felt ashamed to think that I could ever be a Jesus follower. And now, here they are, they're following Jesus. They are a Jesus follower now. And they're learning what it means to follow Jesus more and more every single day. And maybe you're here today, and maybe your next step in your faith journey is to also follow Jesus, to put your faith, your trust, your confidence in what Jesus did for you, the fact that he gave himself up, gave up his life, and sacrificed himself for your sin, for your shortcoming. He gave himself up for you, and maybe it's time for you to consider what it means to put your faith and your trust in Jesus and to follow him in your life. Or maybe you're here today, and perhaps your next step in your faith journey is to go public with your faith. Maybe you're already following Jesus, but you've never gone public through baptism in your faith. Maybe that's your next step. In that text, part of what I didn't read to you is that they go on to say, I feel it's my time to go and get baptized. And so that's actually exactly what we're doing for this person. You're going to get to hear their story soon because they're going to get baptized and share their story of their faith journey with all of us, and it's going to be a really great thing. In fact, I'd love for you to put this on your calendar right now, March 13th at 7 p.m. March 13th at 7 p.m. at Freedom Church. Freedom Church has graciously offered to host us for several things that are coming up. I'm going to tell you about more of them in just a second. But March 13th, 7 p.m., we got 4 people currently lined up to get baptized at Freedom Church, and every single one of you are invited. I want to invite our entire church family to come out and celebrate and encourage them and cheer them on, and we'll have some refreshments and stuff afterwards. It's going to be a really good time. So you're all invited. Love for you to put that on your calendar and be a part of it. But some of you might need to come be part of this thing as a participant, as somebody that gets baptized that hasn't yet taken that step in their faith. If that's you, if you're following Jesus but you haven't gone public through baptism, I encourage you to scan this QR code that's on screen or go to baptism.mycurrent.church. If you scan the QR code, just click the button that pops up on the page that pops up that says baptism. Click on that button. Let us know that you're interested. You're not committing to anything. You're just saying, hey, I'm interested. Okay, I'm interested in learning more, and we'll walk you through what that process looks like here in the next couple of weeks. Or maybe, perhaps you're here and your next step in your faith journey is to find a place to serve here at Current, to find a place to volunteer. We have a number of volunteer teams that are readily available for you. We got our production team. We've got our guest services team. We got kids that serve your kids every single week that sit in small groups with kids and invest in their lives. Some really great opportunities for you to volunteer. And so I want to invite you to figure out where your place might be if you haven't yet found that place here at Current. And speaking of volunteers, we have a really fun night coming up that I'm really excited about. On February 28th, it's towards the end of this month, here in just a couple of weeks or a week and a half, we're doing a volunteer rally. Again, it's also going to be hosted at Freedom Church. But February 28th, we're doing a volunteer rally, and I want you to be a part of it. If you're not yet volunteering, I want you to find your place to volunteer around here, and I want you to get to be a part of it. We've got some really great things in store. We're serving dinner. We're doing childcare. We are, we got some other surprises I'm not going to spoil for you quite yet, but it's going to be a really good night, and I want you to have an opportunity to be a part of it as well. If you are currently a volunteer and you have not yet RSVP'd to the text messages and emails that I have sent you, I love you guys, but please go do that so that we know to expect you and know how many to expect that night. If you're interested in being part of the event, best way to do it, go to serve.mycurrent.church. It's the same QR code, just when you pull it up, click on the button that says serve on that page. We'd love for you to take that step. Or maybe your next step today is to consider what it might look like for you to give sacrificially, financially to Current to further what it is that we're doing. If for those of you that are here and you consider Current to be your church home and you haven't taken this step, I want to invite you to take this step and consider what it might look like to give sacrificially so that we can keep doing what we're doing. In fact, even if you consider Current to be your home, you may not know this, but we can't do this without the generosity of so many people that are in this room and without the generosity of perhaps you as well. And I want to be able to continue changing lives in this room. I want to be able to continue meeting here. I want to be able to continue investing in kids. We've got something coming out on Facebook tomorrow that you guys are going to love. It's so awesome. Our kids love our kids' environments. That's what you're going to discover tomorrow if you go to our Facebook page. But we can't keep doing that without the people that give sacrificially. So if you're ready to take that step, you can go to give.mycurrent.church, or again, same QR code, just click on the button that says give on the page that it takes you to. If you're new with us today, like if you are newer to Current, we don't expect you to give a thing. We don't even want you to give a thing. We want this to be an experience that you love and that changes your life. And so we don't want you to give. This is completely free for you. It's provided for free for you by so many people in this room. So love you to take that step. But to not take that step if you're new. But if you are new, we want to offer you opportunities to take next steps. We believe that when you take next steps in those practical ways, it also helps grow your faith. So I want to invite you to that. Speaking of next steps, we're going to take some next steps in our relationships. So go ahead and turn your attention to the screen and let's jump into our new series, What Happy Couples Know.
We're brought here today by the love that Sarah and Davis have for each other.
I can't believe I get to marry him. We're perfectly compatible in every way.
Yeah, she just gets me, man.
Someone to talk to all night long.
Someone to talk to all night long.
Early morning jogs.
Sleeping in late.
We'll spend the holidays with my parents.
We'll spend the holidays with my parents.
We'll have one well-behaved daughter.
We'll have 4 or 5 little dudes running around.
He'll help me pay off my debt.
I should probably tell her about all my debt. Is that important? We'll share a bank account.
Obviously, we're gonna share a Facebook account.
Do I need to friend my in-laws?
Someone to do my laundry.
Someone to do my laundry.
Double income.
Stay-at-home dad.
Meal planning, of course.
Takeout.
The city.
The burbs.
Mission trip.
Ski trip.
Blue.
Red.
Cat.
Dog.
Fries.
Rings.
Potato.
Potato.
Minivan.
Motorcycle.
2 words. Finished basement.
2 words. Man cave.
He's so smart.
Do you think that birds wish that they had hands?
We're going to be so happy.
We'll be so happy. I'm gonna crush it at being a husband.
Stay tuned, because every week throughout the series, those get better and better as we go along. Listen, when I shared with you, or when you discovered at some point in the last couple of weeks that we were going to do a series on marriage starting today, I'm sure that most of you women were like, yay, finally, we're finally talking about it. You men are probably thinking right now, can we go back to that football thing that we did last week? Can we go back to that thing? That'd be fantastic. Just so you know, women, and listen, I know that a lot of what I'm about to say is kind of stereotyping, and there are men and women that are not this way, okay? So I recognize that. But most of the time, just so you know, women, men think about our relationships with you like most of us tend to think about our cars, okay? We don't want to work on it. We just want it to work, right? We just want it to be successful. So women, when you say things like, hey, let's talk about our relationship, or I'm so glad we're doing a series on marriage, or when you say things like, hey, let's go to lunch after this and talk about the message today, what men hear is there's something wrong and you know how to fix it. And I don't know if you know all the definitions of the term fixed. They bring up some things to mind. Men don't want to be fixed. You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't want to be fixed. Or here's another example. Sometimes when you are driving down the road together in the car, okay? Men, like, we're driving the car, we hear something underneath the hood, right? And what do we say? We say, honey, do you hear that noise? I cannot tell you how many times my wife and I, we've been driving down the road together. I'll be driving her vehicle, and it'll be the first time behind the wheel of her vehicle in a while, and I will say, honey, do you hear that noise? Do you hear that? And she'll be like, yeah, it's been making that noise for a while. I'm sure it's fine. Like, it's not a big deal. It's running, right? You know why? Because my wife especially, but women in general, typically think, as long as it's not broken down on the side of the road, do we really need to check it? It's running. Turn up the radio. That's right. Which, by the way, this right here is how men feel about relationships. Men tend to think, as long as it's not broken down on the side of the road, do we really need to talk about it? And the answer is yes. I think we probably do. And so for the next 4 weeks, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to talk about our relationships. We're going to talk about our dating relationships, our engaged relationships, perhaps our newlywed relationships, or if we've been married for a long time, we're going to talk about those relationships for the next 4 weeks. Now, if you're new with us today, you've picked a great Sunday to check things out because we're starting this series. I think it's going to be so helpful for you, whether you're dating, engaged, married, whatever. I think it's going to be helpful for you. Now, if you're new with us today and you would consider yourself kind of a church person, like you have some church history, you're looking for a church perhaps, you're discovering what Current might have to offer for you. If that's you today, I just want you to know right up front, again, church people, I want you to know I'm just setting up the tension for this series that's going to last us for the next several weeks, okay? So when you go home today, you might wonder to yourself, you might think, okay, where was all the Bible? There wasn't a whole lot of Bible. We're going to get to it, but there wasn't a whole lot of Bible today. What's that all about? So don't go home and think that. I'm asking you, don't go home and have that conversation because next week we're going to talk about one of the greatest statements on relationships that has ever been made. We discover it in the New Testament. We're going to talk about it all week next week, so don't miss next Sunday. But again, today, all I'm doing is setting up the series. All I'm doing is naming that tension that so many of us know about, and hopefully the tension we talk about today, hopefully that is what you go home and talk about after church today. And maybe that's something that you guys have tried to talk about before, but it didn't really go all that well. But when it comes to relationships, for all of us, when it comes to our relationships, every single one of us, we have an invisible box that we carry around of all of our hopes and our dreams and our desires. Now, if you're single today, your box of hopes and dreams and desires, it might be kind of ill-defined. You might not really know what is in your box of hopes and dreams and desires. If you're engaged, I hope that you have talked about what is in your hopes and dreams and desires box with your fiance at this point, perhaps even through some premarital counseling. That's some good stuff. If you're married, you should know what is in your spouse's hopes and dreams and desires box. Some of you do not, which could be the reason why you have some problems and some strain in your relationship. But when it comes to our relationships, when it comes to the future of our lives, we have hopes and dreams and desires. We have hopes and dreams and desires when it comes to this kind of stuff right here. You have hopes and dreams and desires around money. You hope that you have a lot of it, right? You hope that you maybe don't need a lot of it. Maybe you're thinking, well, we don't need a lot of love, or we don't need a lot of money. All we need is love. Yeah? You may be hoping, hey, I think we should be a double income family, or maybe we're going to be a single income family. Maybe the guys are like, I'd love to be able to be a single income family. I work so my wife can stay home. Or maybe you ladies are like, I'd be okay with working so my husband can stay at home. Maybe we'll just have enough of this stuff that both of us can stay at home and not have to work at all. That'd be fantastic too. We also have thoughts and ideas around budgeting, or maybe the desire to not have to budget when we're together as a couple. Maybe some of you guys are like, I'd like to have a budget, and I'd like to tell my wife what her budget is so that she can stick to her limits and not go spend it all on the Target card out there. Maybe you've heard this statement before. My wife has made this statement many times throughout our marriage. What's mine is mine, and what's yours is mine. You ever hear that? Anybody? Hands? Anybody ever hear that statement before? My wife says this all the time. She says it as a joke. Honestly, I'm not sure if she's joking at this point. But the point is, we all have ideas when it comes to money in our hopes and dreams and desires box. Then we have thoughts and ideas around, like, who's going to do the chores, who's going to do things around the house. I told people I was going to do that just to gross some people out in the room. We have some thoughts around what we're going to do around the house. And for some of us, like, our thoughts around that are based off of, like, our family of origin. You know, our family of origin influences who does what around the house a lot of times. Speaking of houses and what's done around the house, we all have thoughts around where we want to live and what kind of house that we want to live in. We have thoughts on, you know, whether or not we want to rent or whether or not we want to own. We have thoughts about what we'd like to drive. Guys would love to drive the fancy car. Girls would love to have the pretty car. You know, typically, I know that that's not always the case, but we have thoughts around what kind of car we're going to drive. And maybe we even have thoughts around how we're going to drive a more practical car when that time comes, when we have some kids, and who's going to give up their car in order for us to drive something more practical. And speaking of kids, you have thoughts and hopes and dreams and desires around having kids. If you're an only child, then you probably would prefer to have more than one child. And as long as you're having more than one child, you might as well just keep having them until you have that boy that you've been wanting. And now that you're at 4, you might as well just, keep going and have as many kids as you possibly can. You have hopes and dreams and desires around that. You also have some thoughts and hopes and dreams and desires around your time, how you're going to spend your time as a couple, how you're going to schedule your free time, if you even have any free time to begin with. And speaking of time, you probably have some hopes and dreams and desires and thoughts around where you're going to spend the holidays. Where are we going to spend Christmas? Where are we going to spend Easter? Where are we going to spend St. Patrick's Day? I don't know, but you probably have thoughts around where you're going to spend the holidays. And then, us guys, we all have hopes and dreams and desires around what we hope our wife will not wear to bed. And women, of course, you also have hopes and dreams and desires and thoughts around that as well, because you think, well, he just wants me to be comfortable. Like he just wants me to be myself, right? So we have thoughts around that as well. In addition to that, we've got thoughts. This is a big one. You have hopes and dreams and desires around conflict in your relationship and how you're going to resolve conflict in your relationship. Oftentimes in a relationship, one person is like, well, I think we should just be completely honest and open with one another and just always be authentic and real. While the other person's like, if I was authentic and real in this moment, you would not appreciate that very much, and then we just hurt feelings. And sometimes that's the way it is. For my wife and I'm going to let it all out there here. You guys ready? We are complete opposites in this. I like to just get it all out. Let's just get it all out, fight it all out, get it over with, and move on. She's like, I'd like to spend a day or a year thinking about it before we talk through it with one another. So you have thoughts around, conflict. Are you going to yell and raise your voices, or are you going to be calm and rational and think through it? And of course, guys are thinking conflict resolution. I mean, isn't that what sex is for? No. And then in addition to that, I don't really have anything to illustrate this, but in addition to that, we just have general thoughts and ideas around our hopes, our dreams, our desires in our relationship around how we're going to treat each other. How are we just going to treat each other as we go throughout life? And several things impact our hopes and our dreams and our desires box. Some of those things that impact it are things that we've seen and things that we've heard. Perhaps other relationships that we've seen or heard. Perhaps other things that we've seen modeled in other people. Perhaps it's what we've seen or heard from the neighbors across the street, or maybe it's what we've read in books or watched in TV or movies. Those things influence our hopes and dreams and desires box. But more often, probably most often, our hopes and dreams and desires are impacted by what we've experienced, particularly in the home that we grew up in, most often. Most of your hopes and your dreams and desires that you bring into your relationship are a response to where you grew up and the environment that you grew up in. Typically, we're either trying to avoid something or we're trying to recreate something. We try and avoid something. We're like, well, I don't want to be like him. I don't want to be like her. I don't want to be like my dad. I don't want you to be like my mom. I don't want to be like them. We try to avoid something. Or we're trying to recreate something. We look at somebody's relationship or their marriage and we go, that right there, that's exactly what I want. I want that relationship. And it doesn't have to necessarily be your parents. Sometimes it is, but sometimes it's not. But even when we're able to recreate that, what I want, that ideal relationship, even when we're able to perfectly recreate it, even in the most ideal recreations, think about this, the person that is all about, the person that it's all about is me. Because why? These are my hopes. These are my dreams. These are my desires for my future. And at some point in your relationship, whether it's in your dating, whether it's when you are engaged, whether it's when you're newlywed, sometimes it can take months or years, but at some point, like after you're married, you hand your box of hopes and dreams and desires off to the other person. And you go, here you go. Make that true. Make it come true. Pull it off. I mean, the reason that I dated you, the reason that I asked you to marry me, the reason that I said yes when you asked me to marry you, the reason that I walked down the aisle, the reason that you waited at the end of the aisle for me, the reason I waited at the end of the aisle for you is because this is the future that I want, and I need you to come through on it. The problem is, your box of hopes and dreams and desires don't feel like hopes and dreams and desires to them. To them, it feels like expectations. To them, it feels like weight. To them, it feels like work. To them, it feels like, well, I might possibly disappoint you in that. I mean, what are expectations? Expectations are the strong belief that something will happen or be the case in the future. I mean, it may not be the case now, but that will be the case someday, right? I mean, I know we haven't gotten rid of that thing yet. I know you haven't changed your mind on this subject yet. I know we haven't accomplished this together yet. I know we haven't arrived to this place that I think we're going to arrive yet, but we're going to get there someday, won't we? Again, expectations are the strong belief that something will happen or be the case in the future. But here's the problem. The problem is that attempting to recreate or avoid something from the past transforms hopes and dreams and desires into expectations. I mean, even in the best relationships, even in the most ideal relationships, even in the most perfect relationships, even the best fall down sometimes. Even the wrong words seem to rhyme. Out of the doubt that, do you guys know this song? It came out my senior year of high school. Out of the doubt that fills my mind, I somehow find what? You and I collide. And when eyes collide, and let's be real here, it's not really even you and I, it's I and I. It's two eyes coming together, we collide. When eyes collide, what happens? We take our boxes and we swap them. There you go, there's mine, I'll take yours, let's do this. And all the stuff that you've dreamed about for years and years, you hand it off to them, and to them it suddenly feels like a burden. To them it feels like expectations. And when eyes collide, when those expectations for one another, when they collide, we tend to do one of 5 things. And we're going to talk about the first 4 today. We're going to talk about the 5th one next week. The most extreme thing that we do when eyes collide is we leave. We leave. Like, this is not what I expected. This is not what I dreamt about for my entire life. Well, you misled me while we were dating. You misled me while we were engaged. Or after we got married, you changed. I mean, I can't meet your expectations. I can't meet that pressure that you've put on me, or you're not meeting my expectations. So guess what? See you later. I'm out of here. We leave. And then we pick up our hopes and dreams and desires, and we just cart them off with us. We carry them off with us so we can hand them off to the next person that we have a relationship with. So we leave. Or second thing that we tend to do when eyes collide is somebody tries to win. Typically in most relationships, there's one personality that's like a stronger personality. And when eyes collide, that personality, that person will power up in order to try and win the argument, whatever that argument is. They'll leverage what we might call the 4 C's to unhealthy relationships: to convince, convict, control, and coerce. In fact, if you are dating or you are engaged, would you like to know how to have a terrible marriage? There it is. There's the recipe right there. We convince people. We're like, okay, I know that this is how your parents resolved conflict, but like, I know this is how it was for you, but here's how it's going to be from now on. Here's how we're going to do it. I mean, I get it. That's what you think is the way it's supposed to be, but you have the wrong box. You have the bad box. I have the good box. Let's work out of the good box. My box is the right way. My box is the rational way. My box is the way we're going to do things. You should just become more like me, and then you'll be happier. Because aren't we all happier when we just conform like other people? Right? If you'll embrace my box, everything will just be better. Or if we don't convince, we convict. We try and make the other person feel guilty for what it is that they believe or what they want. We're like, okay, that's great. That's the way you think we should do things. Your way's dumb. Like, it's terrible. And besides, I mean, look at your parents. It obviously didn't work out for them, so why in the world would you do things the way your parents do things? Right? We convict them. And so, we work our way up to try and win. And for a short time, the winner's happy, right? I mean, life is a dream. My wife is getting better. My husband, he's improving. And we've got 2 people working out of my box of hopes and dreams and desires. And the winner's happy. The third thing that we do whenever we collide is kind of the opposite of the second. We will conform. Somebody will conform in the relationship. Somebody will become somebody that they're not in order to please the other person who won't love them for who they are. And they begin to abandon who they are, their true self and their true hopes and dreams and desires in order to make the other person happy. And here's the thing, conforming actually works for a little bit, especially for the winner. It works for them, but it also works for the conformer as well, because they're temporarily happy at the same time because they're thinking, all right, well, we're not fighting, we're getting along, like things are working out, right? I mean, they're not my hopes and they're not my dreams, they're not my desires, but if I'm happy and they're happy, then I guess I'll just deal with it. But then as a result of all that, what happens? You both lose respect for one another. The person that won loses respect for the person that conformed because they've conformed. They're not even themselves anymore. And the person that has conformed loses respect for the winner because you forced me into conforming. And then the fourth thing that we tend to do whenever eyes collide is probably the most common. We compromise. Now, most people, again, there's a fifth option. We're going to talk about it next week. But most people think that this is the goal of the relationship. That if we just do this, well, at least then we'll stay married, at least then we'll make it. I mean, maybe that was the case with your parents. Maybe you look at your parents and you're like, well, they weren't really unhappy, but they weren't exactly happy either. I mean, they got along. They figured out how to get through life together. When we compromise, we start keeping score. When we compromise, we start like keeping a record. We track who's done what and who's, measuring up to the expectations of the other person. Well, okay, yeah, I get it. We spent Christmas with your family last year, and so now the agreement is we're going to spend Christmas with my family this year. I get it, your dad's sick. Okay, but we're going to spend Christmas with my family this year because that was a joke, by the way, already decided, right? We've already compromised. We've already figured this out. We're keeping score, and we're uneven. We got to make this thing even now. But the problem with compromising, the problem with keeping score is that there's low levels of trust between each other. And if there's low levels of trust, there's low intimacy with one another. Because you can't really have intimacy with somebody that you have not given yourself fully to. And you won't give yourself fully to somebody that you don't trust, that you're keeping score with. In fact, if you're here today and you're single, and you're curious, you're wondering, like, what is the secret to great sex and marriage? I'll give you a hint. It's not actually about the sex. It's about intimacy between the two people. And that intimacy is tied to how much we trust one another. In any relationship that's characterized by these four things right here, you might still have the physical part of the relationship, and it might feel great, but there's no actual intimacy between the two of you because everyone is guarded in order to protect themselves from the other person. I mean, it might still work. You might still be together for all of life. You might stay married all the way through life, but there's a better way than this right here. Because a compromising relationship, a relationship where the two people compromise with one another, that relationship is committed to the wrong thing. It's committed to the relationship. I mean, maybe you've heard or maybe you've said at some point in your life, this right here, I'm committed to my marriage. I mean, this sounds good on the surface. It sounds like what we should be saying, right? But here's the thing. Nobody marries a marriage. We say, oh, well, I'm committed to my marriage for my entire life. I'm going to make it. We refuse to get divorced because I'm committed to my marriage. But nobody dates a relationship. Nobody's engaged to a relationship. Nobody is married to a marriage. There's another person involved. I mean, I don't want my wife, I don't want Amy to be committed to our marriage. And she doesn't want me to be committed to our marriage. I want Amy to be committed to me. And she wants me to be committed to her. I mean, what kind of a terrible marriage would that be if all we ever said was, well, I'm committed to this marriage. I'm committed to making it through for all of life. I mean, I could be married to anybody because I'm committed to being married for my entire life. What kind of a marriage would that be? It'd be terrible. I mean, saying things like I'm committed to my marriage, or saying things like I want my marriage or I want my relationship to work. You notice who's in all those statements? Me. It's my marriage. It's my relationship. It's my future. It's my hopes and dreams and desires. And this right here, I mean, this is not terrible. This isn't a terrible thing. But if this right here is all, like if it's all you have and it causes you to stay together for life, I mean, that's a good thing. Being for marriage is better than being against marriage. Wanting to have a good marriage is better than not wanting to have a good marriage, but there's something more than this. And the something more is the other person in the relationship. Again, this right here might work, but it's not exactly fun and enjoyable. So when eyes collide, we do 4 things. We leave, we win, we conform, and we compromise. But when we choose one of those 4 things, when eyes collide in one of those 4 ways, we, as a couple, lose. But there is a 5th option. And I'm going to tell you about it next week. I know. What I want to do today is I want to spend the rest of, in fact, before I say this, I just want you to know, again, we're going to talk about that 5th option and the Bible verse I told you about, like for most of our time next week. But for the rest of today, what I want to do is I want to just set up the rest of the series. We've got 3 more weeks after today where we're going to talk about this together. And I just kind of want to set it up so that we're all on the same page together. And maybe so far today, all I've done is just kind of put words to something that you've already felt, you've already sensed, you've already known, but you didn't quite have words for it. I want to look at it from just a slightly different perspective for just a moment. Expectations. When we turn our hopes and dreams and desires into expectations, expectations create a debt-debtor relationship. Once I put my expectations for our marriage on you, I now assume you owe me. You now owe me. You owe me to resolve conflict the way that I want to resolve conflict. You owe me to spend our time the way I want to spend our time. You owe me to have a family in the way that I want to have a family. You owe me love and you owe me respect. You owe me a clean house when I come home, every day. You owe me patience. You owe me Oreos in the cabinet every single day because you've always had Oreos in the cabinet. Sorry, that's getting a little too personal for me. Because my wife just has always had Oreos in the cabinet. It's awesome. We think you owe me. That is what you are supposed to do. That's what my dad always did. That's what my mom always did. That's what a husband does. That's what a wife does. You owe me, and I owe you, and we can just be in debt to one another. But being in a debt-debtor relationship in your marriage was never God's intent for your marriage. Think about it this way. How much appreciation and love do people pay for something that is owed to them when they receive it? How much appreciation and love do you pay when somebody does what it is that they're supposed to do? How much appreciation and love do you pay when somebody gives what they're supposed to give? How much appreciation and love do you pay when somebody pays what they're supposed to pay? The answer is very little, if any at all, right? We rarely express appreciation or love for what we've come to expect in our relationship. And listen, every single relationship, every one of our relationships have routines. They have roles. Like that's normal. That's completely natural. That's the way relationships work. And I'm not talking about like assigned roles. I'm not talking about, like gender roles or like the roles that culture tries to say we're supposed to be playing. But within the context of every single relationship, within that context, every relationship has roles that people are supposed to play. But when we come to expect what has always been done, like having Oreos in the cabinet at all times, when we come to expect it, we show little appreciation for it. We show little love for it. We won't thank the person when they do it, but we'll ask them about it when they don't. When we expect something, we don't show appreciation for something. Appreciation is an indication that I don't have a box of expectations. I made that up myself. Appreciation is an indication that I don't have a box of expectations. You might want to write that down. I don't know. But love does not work in an environment of expectations because we can't even see that we are being love or showing love because we are expecting those things. Well, he's always done that. Well, she's always done that. Well, my mom always did that. My dad always did that. That's what men are supposed to do. That's what women are supposed to do. I mean, if he's meeting the requirement, why in the world would I appreciate him for that or love him for that? If she's meeting the requirement, why would I appreciate her for that? Why would I love her for that? Again, in an environment of expectations, you can never do enough for you to feel loved or for the other person to feel like they are being loved either. And that is a terrible way to live. But there is a better way. And it's something that happy couples know. And we're going to talk about it next week. But here, this kind of raises the question, what should we do with our hopes and dreams and desires? What should we do with our box of hopes and dreams and desires? I mean, should we just pretend that we don't care about those things? Should we just I don't know, give up on her wearing what I'd love to see her wear? Should we give up on, where we want to spend things? Should we just pretend it doesn't exist? How we're going to spend our time? Should we, give up on the family and all that stuff? I don't know. Here's a thought. Should we, I got to find it. It's way down in here, but should we just pretend that we don't have hopes and dreams and desires when it comes to money? I mean, who needs money anyway? At least we've got each other, right? And should we just give up and ignore on where we're going to live? Who says we even need to live indoors, right? And should we just give up on who's going to do things around the house and what we're going to drive? I mean, should we just ignore these things? Should we just deny all of these things? I mean, you've been building this box of hopes and dreams and desires for all of your life. And let's be honest. A lot of the things in this box are not bad things. These are things that God has placed in your heart for a reason. And they're not bad things, but what do you do with them in your marriage? The answer is you keep them in the hopes and dreams and desires box. But how do you do that? How do you keep things in your hopes and dreams and desires box and not put them in their expectations box and then go and hand off this box of expectations to your significant other? Well, the answer to that is based on the answer to this next question I'm going to ask you. And the answer to this next question, you all know. We all know the answer to it. We may not like it. It's what happy couples know. It's certainly not easy and it's not original to me. But the question that we have to answer is this: well, what do they owe you? And happy couples know that the answer to that is nothing. Happy couples know that they owe one another everything, but they are not owed anything in return. I know it doesn't make sense, so I'm going to say it again. Happy couples know they owe one another everything, but they're not owed anything in return. Think about the happiest couples that you know. There's something about them that just doesn't make sense, right? It doesn't matter if they're on hard times or good times. It doesn't matter if they have money, don't have money. It doesn't matter if they have kids, don't have kids, couldn't have kids. It doesn't matter what life throws at them. They are still happy as a couple, and it doesn't make any sense. It's because happy couples know they owe one another everything, but they're owed nothing in return. And here's the thing. Not all happy couples in this world are Jesus-following Christian couples. I get that. But for those couples in this world that are Jesus-following Christian couples, they do this for one another because they know something that we all should know as well. It's based off of Jesus' one overarching command. So here's the thing. On the night that Jesus was arrested, he was going to be he was betrayed, he was going to be arrested, he was going to ultimately be killed. On that night, he got all of his followers, all of his disciples together. And he's like, okay, listen, guys, I know that a little while back I reduced all 600 plus of our laws. I reduced them down to 2, okay? And now I'm going to reduce them down to 1. This is really important. You guys listening? John, you listening? I need you to write this down so people can read it later. You guys ready? Okay, write this down, John. As I have loved you, so you must love one another. The Apostle Paul, he takes this one command of Jesus and he he hashes it out in so many of his letters. He writes all these letters to all these different churches, and he applies this command of Jesus in a number of different areas and in every single one of our relationships. In fact, in one of his letters, he directly applies this command of Jesus to our marriages, which we're going to talk about. That's what we're going to talk about next week. But in another one of his letters that he wrote to all Christians on the planet, this is what he said. He said, I want you to walk in the way of love. Now, not like this lovey-dovey, ooey-gooey, Valentine's Day kind of love that we just experienced this week. He's like, there's a better kind. There's a Jesus kind. The kind that we model everything after. Because we model everything after Jesus. He's like, walk in the way of love, just as Christ loved us. Well, how did he love us, Paul? He gave himself up for us. And when Jesus-following couples apply this right here, giving themselves up for the other person, marriage begins to look like a submission competition. We're going to race to the back of the line for one another. And this sounds miserable. And this is why so few people do it. But I'm telling you, those that do this right here, they love it. And that right there is what happy couples know. Now, to close our time, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you 2 pieces of homework, okay, for next week. They're simple, but you got to do it, okay? 2 pieces of homework. And this homework, by the way, is for you. It's not for your spouse or your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your fiance. It is for you. Don't go home and talk about the message today until you come back next week. That's a recipe for disaster, okay? Because I haven't given you some of the answers that you need at this point. This homework is for you, not for them, okay? The first piece of homework is this. Answer the question, what is in my box of hopes and dreams and desires? You should know. You should know what's in your box. If you are experiencing relational conflict in your relationship right now, it might be because you don't know what's in your box, or they don't know what's in your box, or you don't know what's in theirs. If you're single, you need to begin thinking about what is in your box of hopes and dreams and desires, because eventually you're going to carry this box into your relationship. So what's in your box? And 2, are you expecting somebody to carry it for you? Have you handed this thing off to somebody? Have you put the pressure on somebody? Is somebody that you love carrying your box of expectations, your box of hopes and dreams and desires? So, 2 pieces of homework. What's in your box? And have you handed it off? And I'm going to let you think about that for the next week. Let's pray. God, this has been so helpful for me as I've just been getting ready for today. I hope that it's been helpful for people that are here as well. And I know that it is so easy to hand off our expectations to our significant other and go, here, make this come true. Make this a reality. I need you to make this a reality in my life. But God, I pray that you would help it become clear to us this week. What are the things that we're handing off, the expectations that we're putting on the other person? Help us to be able to name them and be able to answer the question. I would love for us to be able to answer the question, have we handed it off in such a way that the answer is no. We've taken it back. And instead, we're in a submission competition with the other person. So God, I pray that you would give us the wisdom to know what to do with today and the courage to actually follow through on it. And I pray that next week as we talk about the 5th option, when eyes collide, I pray that it would just be so encouraging and helpful for us. We love you, Jesus. We pray it all in your name. Amen. Hey, one last thing before you head out. Our student ministry, current students from middle school and high school students, is back. We have taken a break for a little while. We were trying to find a good place for them to meet, and we found that place. It's Freedom Church. This church has been so good to us. They're allowing us to meet on their campus during times when they're not meeting, and it's awesome. So current students are back tonight for the first time in a while, 6 p.m. If you're a middle school or high school student, you have a middle school or high school student, or you know a middle school or high school student, we'd love to see them. It's going to be a really good time. So Freedom Church, 6 p.m. this evening. We'd love to see your students there. You guys have a great week. We'll see you back here next week for part 2 of What Happy Couples Know.